For the guards at Japan's biggest prison, this has become a familiar routine. Fuju Prison in the Tokyo suburbs distributes more than 1,800 diapers every month to elderly inmates who live with incontinence. Here, nearly 1 in 4 prisoners is aged over 65. At times, it looks more like a retirement home than a prison.
Some inmates can't eat regular rice because it's too hard for them to chew, so we mash it into porridge.
Yutaka Hayashi has witnessed dramatic changes during his 3 decades working in Japan's prison system. For one thing, the number of inmates aged over 65 has quadrupled over the past 20 years. Hayashi is our guide as we are given a rare opportunity to follow a group of prisoners. They're all aged over 70. Some have disabilities.
With younger prisoners, we worry about fights or escape attempts. But with elderly inmates, that's not really a concern. What worries us most is that they might fall and injure themselves.
At Fuju, prisoner care goes beyond providing food and shelter. Staff must also ensure that they look after the health of the men in their care. The prison introduced light exercise sessions 6 years ago. While younger inmates work, elderly prisoners focus on their physical rehabilitation. Therapists take the inmates' blood pressure, test their reflexes, and help them improve their posture. They speak loudly, since many of the men have hearing difficulties. The therapy is free. This man, we'll call him Murata, has 5 sessions a week.
I'll keep exercising until the day I'm released.
The older inmates' physical condition deteriorates while they're inside. When they're released, their lack of strength can affect their mobility and their ability to manage their daily lives. So these exercises are essential for their rehabilitation.
If the number of older inmates seems high, it's partly because some prefer life in prison to fending for themselves on the outside. Even minor offences can carry custodial sentences in Japan, so some men play the system. Murata is a repeat offender. His most recent crime was failing to pay a bar bill.
Honestly, I had no one to rely on. When I ran out of money, I ended up doing things like eating without paying. I told myself, if I get caught, I'll just go back to prison. The day I get out, if I don't have a place to stay, I might have to sleep outside, wherever I can.
He's far from alone. According to our guide, some inmates spend their last days in prison.
Some people have been here 7 or 8 times. One inmate stole items worth less than 20 euros. For some, that's the total amount they stole across multiple prison terms. For them, prison cells eventually become somewhere to live, a place that feels like home.
Reintegrating these prisoners into society is challenging in Japan, where 1 in 5 people over 65 live below the poverty line. The full state pension is less than 400 euros a month, making it almost impossible to survive on without additional income from savings. Circumstances can mean old age is filled with uncertainty. In the worst cases, some people end up on the street. We joined volunteers while they distributed food to needy people in Tokyo.
From here, it's better if you keep a distance.
Tonight, they'll hand out around 90 boxed meals to homeless people, most of whom are over 60.
なんか調子悪いとか特にない。大丈夫そう。
But the volunteers are sometimes unable to help with serious medical problems.
血尿出てる？じゃあ紙パンツをあとどっか途中で届けようかね。
頼むよ。足突っ込むやつね。あっちの方がいい。
あっちの方がいいね。
食べるのが食べられなくなる。もう全部ない。もうダメだ。もうね、お迎え来た。
Magokoro Yoshihira and her team have been helping homeless people for 6 years. Over that time, they've won the trust of vulnerable rough sleepers in this part of eastern Tokyo.
Yeah, if they stay outside, there's no housing cost. So the pension money goes to their living expenses, mostly for food.
A little further on, we meet Hirofumi. He agrees to be filmed, but asks us not to delve too deeply into his past.
If we want my blood pressure to go above 140,
No, we don't.
well, if you want it to rise, just give me a cigarette.
Hirofumi is affable and well-liked in the area. He's only 52, but his feet have been damaged by the cold and life on the streets.
If his nails grow too long, they'll become painful. I've seen people with the same problem who couldn't even stand up.
Hirofumi says he once turned himself in for shoplifting in the hope of receiving a prison sentence.
I wanted to go to prison because you get 3 meals a day and can take naps. But no matter how many times I tried, they released me from custody every time.
That's probably because of your disability card.
Yes, maybe.
Due to his intellectual disability and calm demeanour, the authorities tend to leave him alone. His tent remains standing, an unusual sight in a modern city like Tokyo. We return a few days later. Tourists crowd the streets of the old Asakusa neighbourhood. Some of the homeless people we met seem to have vanished from places where tourists are taking photos. But Hirofumi is still here. He goes almost unnoticed, keeping a low profile. Tokyo's a clean, safe city, and the authorities want to keep it that way.
You see that bridge over there? Sleeping there is only allowed at certain hours. And you know some homeless people work alone, so they don't bother residents. Once I saw a homeless man enter a convenience store, and the staff started spraying deodorant to hide the smell.
Prison can be a form of escape for people who are treated as outcasts. The poor are barely visible in Japan. Begging is rare. To earn money, some homeless people collect empty cans to sell as scrap metal. The lucky ones manage to find stable jobs. Takayake Fujisawa cleans the toilets at this hotel 3 times a week. The 77-year-old has spent almost half his life in prison. He owes his job to Yoshihira, the head of the welfare group.
There are people who want to work but can't, so I consider myself lucky.
He receives around 600 euros a month from his pension and welfare payments, and he earns an extra 160 euros from his cleaning job. That's just enough to buy food and rent a tiny room. Sometimes he has enough left to buy manga or CDs.
Here at least it's not a problem if I turn the volume up a bit. My neighbor is old and hard of hearing.
Fujisawa's room measures 10 square meters and has no bathroom. He grew up in a poor family. His parents encouraged him to steal before placing him in care. He found it hard to live normally and became a compulsive shoplifter. He served 15 prison sentences, seeing them as his best chance of survival. When he was 65, he was arrested again for stealing food.
I used to sleep outside on a mattress full of fleas and bed bugs. It was unbearably cold. Going back to prison felt like the only option. Even today, it doesn't scare me, but I hold back for Miss Magokoro because she believes in me. If she weren't here, it would be very hard for me to stay out of prison.
Fujisawa says he no longer steals, thanks in part to his job. Even though he lives on the edge, he's a reformed man. That makes him unusual. 40% of elderly inmates in Japan return to prison within 5 years of their release.